Okay.
Okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to SOSA. I'm Tab, this is Robzgalloway, and over there we have Lerai. Today we're going to be speaking about cancel culture on this Ramble segment.
So I think that like a good place for us to start the conversation is just by sort of defining what cancel culture is. Cancel culture or call-out culture describes a form of boycott in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, either online, on social media, in the real world, or both. They are said to be cancelled. I think like a few things to take away from the definition of cancel culture is like they are literally thrust out of society. They're like ostracized.
Yeah.
And I think that like where we've seen this the most is like on Twitter, when people's racist stories have come out, when people's rape stories have come out, and I think just the way in which cancel culture is perpetuated, it doesn't suit the victim. Like it focuses mainly on the perpetrator and not really on what the victim needs. You know what I mean? Like I think that in situations where someone's coming out with their story, it's very important to also remember what the victim wants and not necessarily like focusing all of the attention on the perpetrator.
Yeah.
A question that I have for you guys is, do you think it's sustainable? Like, do you think that after someone's been cancelled, do you think that it's something that can last for long?
I think people's opinions are allowed to change all the time, and I have had moments where like someone will come out with like a rape story and like cancel this person, like they should be ostracized, no one should speak to them, whatever. But then you'll get someone else come to me and be like, no, but how are we going to teach this person? Because who's to say they're not going to go rape somebody else and stuff like that? But I think at the same time, I'm also like, you can't really educate like an old person. Like a person knows the difference between wrong and right. So it's like, to what extent am I going to educate this person? Because it's like, I know you know that what you do is wrong, you know? And I know that in the age group that we live in, someone is going to get very hurt if they're not invited to a party, or if they're not in this group chat, or if they're not friends with their friends anymore. So I feel like it does work to a certain extent, but I do understand why people would be like, no, we need to educate the person, you know? And I feel like that only applies to race for me, but when it turns to rape, it's like, nah, they can get ostracized, we can cancel them, you know?
The first thing that I thought about was the fact that cancel culture is something that happens majority of the time on social media. And we know that social media is ever changing, it's always evolving. And the other thing is that it's a trend. We didn't always have this, or the way that we carry it out, you know, we didn't always have this form of cancel culture. So is it sustainable? I definitely don't think it is, especially the way that it is right now. Is it a good thing is another thing that we can speak about, because
I think in terms of cancel culture, it's a very nuanced, very complex thing to speak about, because people get cancelled for different things, and it's just sort of, I find myself like weighing up like, okay, cool, like I definitely think that in terms of race, there are some people where you could educate them, but I think especially when referring to rape stories, I honestly believe that when it comes to rape stories, if the person is ostracized, they're sort of getting away with it. Like just because they've been called out on social media and okay, cool, they might not be invited to a few parties, there will still be people that are friends with them. And there will still be people that allow them to get away with these kinds of things. And the response will just be, that's just who they are. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a very big issue, is the fact that, you know, we sort of excuse people's behavior just because we've known them for long and that's just who they've always been. You know what I mean? So I think that when it comes to different situations, I definitely think that in terms of rape cases, I think that canceling someone, because it's not sustainable in my opinion, and because it sort of feels like they're getting away with it, I don't think that it's a good thing. But I think that when considering where it comes from,
are you going to focus on issues like what you're speaking about right now, because that leaves the responsibility in our hands. You know, we've seen a lot of this, what's it called? You know, people are advocating for things on social media, but what are you actually doing? Because you can talk about it, we're all speaking about it, but what is actually being done? The fact that this story is online, we now have the responsibility to try and make a change. Not just cancel that person, but let's speak to the victim, right? Because a lot of the time these stories come out and maybe the victim didn't even want that story to come out, or you know, they don't feel comfortable about it. This person is going through so much trauma, and the fact that their business is out there for everyone to see and hear is adding to that. Trust me, it is adding to that. So how are we supporting the victim? But how are we making sure that the perpetrator isn't just ostracized in society, because that'll never be the case.
Because they could still do it again.
Exactly.
Just because they're ostracized, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't do it again.
Exactly. So how do we ensure that justice is served in the right way? That is the role that we need to be playing. We aren't people that carry out justice, but there are people
That could do that.
Exactly. So how do we ensure that that happens?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like I was saying, the origins of cancel culture, I've seen a lot of the time people take to social media to tell their stories because they feel like there is nowhere else for them to take their stories. Like a lot of the time, people go to the police and find themselves like not being taken seriously. The cases get suspended and suspended and suspended, and justice isn't served in a lot of cases. And so I do understand why there is a need for social media, because at the end of the day, the unfortunate thing about social media is that people always want the next story. It's unfortunate that the next story just happens to be someone's trauma, and as a victim, it cannot be easy to take your story to social media all the time. However, I do understand that the need to protect people and the need to inform those around you and those on social media of this person's doings, there is a definite need to inform people of it, you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
About the whole education thing, right? I think that is why people feel that cancel culture is needed, because we're trying to educate the person, right? But I think, number one, that is a good thing. That's something that you should be doing, but it's like, how do we go about doing that? For me, the biggest thing, what I've seen in perpetrators and the victim, is that a lot of the time, you don't understand the magnitude of what has happened, right? Either leading up to that, you know, looking at the perpetrators, leading up to, you know, the person's behavior, or just once you've experienced that, you as the victim might not understand immediately what has just happened. And that's what happens a lot of the time when people experience trauma. So what are we doing as these people's friends, as their family? What are we doing to call them out and make sure that from the beginning, just the baseline, not when you've actually gone and raped the person, if we're speaking about rape, or when you've, you know, made a racist comment, but what are the small things that we're doing? Because that's where it starts, right? It doesn't just start at boom, you're in bed raping someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen like that. It's a build up. And you think it's okay, you think it's okay, you think it's okay. So what are we doing down here?
But you see, the thing is, another question of mine is, like, when can you say that someone is being problematic to the point where you are worried, where you can say, you know what, this person is being problematic to the extent that we should be scared of them being around other people? My thing is that, okay, cool, it's one thing to talk and to say that this person is problematic, but when do we say that they are borderline, like you can predict, I guess, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think an important thing for us to cover is like something that I just want to pose to you guys is like the repercussions of cancel culture. Because I know that there was a situation in which someone had come out with their story and someone's response was, well, you're not even their type.
It's an important thing to talk about.
As uncomfortable as it is.
Exactly, and the reason why it's uncomfortable is because we might know the people that have, you know, acted in that way. So the person that might have made a comment like that, do we cancel them? Even after they've gone out and apologized and said, listen, I was just trying to defend my friend. Literally, that's it. You don't know the full story. All you know is that this person is your friend. What is your first instinct? Protect. You get what I'm saying? So yes, we're not saying it's right. I would definitely go and call the person out that has said, like, listen, dude, no matter what, so and so, but they've seen what they've done wrong. I think that's what cancel culture is about. Let's show people what they're doing wrong so that they don't go and do it again. Do you think that somebody that, you know, we're just talking about defending people that, you know, might be on the negative side of cancel culture, right? The people that defend these people. If they've gone and done that and they've you know, seen their wrongs and all of that, should we then allow them to, I guess, come back into society if we've decided to cancel them or whatever? Because that's what the point is,
So
right?
you're saying it's not a thing of literally cancelling the person, it's more of a thing of cancelling their actions.
Exactly.
Because I think in a lot of people's minds, the thing of we're cancelling you as a person, you're never going to show up here again. But are you saying it should be a thing of, yeah, stick around if you want to, but we're going to tell you that what you did was offside. Like you're never going to do that again, especially not if you want to be around us. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
But what about the victim?
I think it goes back to what I said. Not everybody's going to listen to the victim. If I came to you and I said, Sam, your best friend Sam, right, raped me, and as the victim, I would appreciate it if you never spoke to Sam again. You're going to cancel Sam. Would you do it?
I think that considering,
And I'm the relationship we have now is exactly the same. Like we're very close.
yeah.
You're still very close to Sam, and I said this is what Sam did to me.
Well, I mean, honestly speaking, like from my perspective, if I was in the victim's shoes, I would want to be believed.
Yeah.
And as your friend, even though I might be friends with Sam, my outlook is always going to be from the perspective of how do I protect the victim, no matter who the victim is. The thing is, I'll be honest, when it comes to rape stories, I want to be proved wrong. I would rather believe a liar than a rapist.
100%.
And so I don't mind if I believe a liar who, well, is supposed to be a victim and it comes out that they're actually lying. You can call me out and you can say what you want about me, but I would rather have that than have evidence come out to prove that I'm actually, number one, a bad person for not believing the victim, and number two, why am I defending a rapist?
So you're saying that with your believing comes action. So if I tell you, Sam
Yes.
raped me, you're going to cancel Sam.
Yeah.
Fully.
But we also need to look at the numbers, right? That should be the stance that everybody has. Because when you walk into a room that has women in it, think about how many of those women have gone through a situation like that, have gone through that type of trauma. You have more women that have actually experienced this than women that are lying about it. So if you look at it logistically, who are you going to believe? Which of the statistics are you going to believe? Let's start there.
I 100% agree. Like, I rather believe the victim than the rapist. You know, these things like cancel culture, whatever, shouldn't only apply to you when it hits home. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that a lot of people think that, like, it's quick to say, from an outside point of view, it's quick to say, no, I would cancel that person. I'm never going to speak to that person. I hate rape. And then the second it comes to Sam, who's my best friend, I'm like,
And
no, but I'm sure we shouldn't educate Sam because like, I'm sure he didn't mean it. He's not that type of person. You know what I mean? And I think
that's
this
why it's so selective.
yes, the selective cancelling thing can also tend to put a lot of other victims that haven't come out yet, like, you see what happens when you come out. Let me shut up. You know, and that can cause a lot of trauma.
You literally like keep the same energy. I feel that in situations where people's stories are coming out, no matter what the situation is, I think that specifically when it comes to rape stories, I'm very quick to say, okay, cool, take action, just leave the person, don't speak to them ever again. It's very quick for me to take action, you know what I'm saying? But I think in situations where some video of a white person saying the N-word has come out, in situations like that, I'm sort of like, okay, cool, so what's
I do think
now?
cancel culture can vary from situation to situation. That's why I think that with rape, it's an immediate, you know what I mean? And that's fine. That's 100% allowed. And I think that with the, I don't want to say my opinion is biased, but I think with the rape thing, the reason I'm so quick with it is because I know it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand it. And then when it comes to race, I know it, I understand it. I know people that have stepped out of line in terms of race, but have brought themselves back in terms of education, and they're no longer those people. You know what I mean? So I think it can vary. I think it's allowed to be different. You don't have to have the same definition for every single situation that happens.
So I have a question for you guys then. Does cancel culture have to happen on social media? Because if it's somebody that's close to you that has been cancelled, do you have to now go onto Twitter, this person, do you have to do that? Or is it okay for you to cancel them in your own way?
I think the issue with cancel culture is that, let's say for example, your male best friend has been like there's a rape allegation against them, right? Social media will say, but you're friends with him, so where's your response? You know what I mean? And I think the thing with social media is that if your best friend, your male best friend, is found to be guilty of rape, you are expected by association to come out and say something, which I don't think is necessary.
Exactly.
It's people wanting a story. It's people wanting to say, here's the drama, here's the story, here's the tea. It's a he said, she said, And this goes back to the thing of, but what about the victim?
I don't know how to word this, but I think that there can be victims on different levels as well. So there can be someone that actually experienced it, and then there can be Sam's best friend who feels uncomfortable because it's like, what if it happened to me? Like I hang out with Sam every single day, and so I do think there can be victims on different levels, and I think that just because they're on different levels doesn't mean you must dismiss the trauma that they may be going through. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it can still cause a lot of anxiety when you find out that your best friend Sam raped someone. So I think you're allowed to keep quiet, you're allowed to internalize it, you're allowed to try to find a way forward, you know, but I think that it is important. I'm not saying that maybe those that were close with Sam, so Sam's friendship group, they can be a little bit quiet about it because I understand. You're healing, you're going through something. But I do think that it's very important, social media is important in the sense that we're warning other people that Sam is a predator. Sam, this is what Sam did and this is what you should know. Especially in the age that we live in, it's important to call people out and be like, yo, watch out for this and this person. Because if we use that thing of not literally cancelling the person but educating them, then you guys are going to educate Sam in the corner there. Sam's going to go to another party and then maybe he's not fully educated and he's going to do it to somebody else. Whereas if you made it loud enough that this is what Sam did, then the next time someone sees him at a party, they can be like, oh no, that's Sam. Like, this is what he did. It's important for calling out, but the victims on different levels should not be forced to speak immediately. Like, you don't have to make a press release. You know, you're rushing people's process, and that's unhealthy.
Because I mean, like, to lose a friend is a loss.
It's deep.
Because it's a loss at the end of the day. Like, it is a loss to lose a friend. Yeah. Whether it be to situations like this or any other situation, like, it's still not easy. You know what I mean? And so I think that, like, people should be given the time and space to deal with their loss.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It kind of, how you said that thing of that person said nobody's not giving the time. That this sparked the question. So obviously I feel like that person would be, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that person would be classified as a rape apologist, no?
It's all about the timing and the person's understanding. Number one, I would immediately cancel a rape apologist, but you know, I'm the type of person that won't go to social media and say da da da. I've done it before. I've cut somebody off that has acted in a way that was, you know, the way that a rape apologist would act. But what happened if the person that was seen to be as a rape apologist, right? Were they really apologizing for them?
Did they fully understand?
Or were they defending their friend? Did they fully understand? And we can tell what that stance is by looking at what happened afterwards. Because if the person came out and apologized and said, listen guys, I messed up. I really was just defending my friend, but I know that this is wrong. And I will then deal with my friend the way I see fit. Is that us defending?
Everyone's allowed to handle cancel culture how they want to. I've cancelled rape apologists in the sense that I've cancelled the person. I wasn't loud about it. I'll just delete your number. We won't speak. It's fine. It's unfair to feel like your way is the only right way. And it's difficult at the same time though, because it's not like you can have this conversation that we're having with every single person you come across. Everybody's allowed to deal with things their own way, and the problem comes in when you feel like you're an advocate for cancel culture. It's normal, honestly, it's normal for everybody to have a different definition of cancel culture, and it's just a matter of respecting it. And I think that it's important not to be loud all the time. Like, it goes back to Robin saying people are looking for the next story, and Lerai saying that you don't have to go, no, I cancelled this person because this is what they did. No, it's fine. Just cancel them.
Be quiet.
And you're allowed to educate other people though. You are allowed to have conversations like this where it's like a thing of, hey, you don't have to follow my advice, but I cancel this person for this and this reason. I don't know if that's what you want to do as well. You know, I've done that before.
What are the other alternatives? What are the ways in which we can make cancel culture more sustainable? What are the ways in which we're able to, you know, make sure that the victim gets what they need, justice is served, and everyone is still educated? You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that's very, very nuanced and something that is very complex, because at the end of the day, in order for the justice to be served correctly in the way in which the justice system is supposed to carry out these kinds of things, I think that that's something that we, on a civilian level, can only do so much about. There's only so many petitions we can sign, and that actually get listened to. Let's start there. There's only so many marches you can go to. There's like only so many letters you can write to the government. Like, I think this week specifically, I found myself, like, I feel very demotivated. When I'm sitting with myself, like specifically this week, I've just been saying, but what's the point? You know, I think that that's the biggest issue. Nothing is getting done. We continue to have this conversation every 3 months when a woman is killed.
And it's very hard because I know that I can feel as hopeless as I want to feel, but at the back of my mind, it's like, no, but what if this is the one? What if this is the situation that might make a change? You know what I mean? So like this internal conflict where it's like, no, but it didn't work last time. What if it works this time? Like, it's very, very, very difficult, and I think that these conversations shouldn't stop happening. So I think in the back of your mind, it's always important to remember that it's happening all the time, and you should be bothered. You know what I mean? Like it should sit rent free in your head because it's a big deal. It is a big issue.
The first thing is maturity. Yes, guys, this is happening over social media. We're all hiding behind our phones, so it's easy to have an instant reply. But you need to remember that these are serious situations, and we need to handle we need to handle them with maturity. How would you handle the situation if you were sitting in front of the person? If you were in the same room as them? And the second thing is, guys, there are things that you can do to really participate in making a change. You don't just have to, sign petitions and all of that. If you have time to, it's all about empowerment and education and raising awareness. There are movements out there. So how can you guys come and really participate by doing the smallest thing?
Donate to 1,000 girls. But anyways, guys, the thing to take away from this conversation, go educate yourself. This has been the Cancel Culture edition of Ramble. This is the first episode. You'll be seeing a lot of me. Thank you so much to Lerai for coming and joining. Saying hi.
Thank you so much for tuning in to SOSA. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And all of this.